What is up, guys? It's your boy Falcon back again, and today we're working on a 2018 Buick Encore with a 1.4 liter engine. Now this is a Buick, but also Chevy's with a 1.4 liter turbo engine. This applies to it, but what I'm going to show you is how to replace the oil cooler. This oil cooler is leaking oil and we got to replace it. I've also have the video of this procedure on a Chevy Cruze here on the channel. Same procedure, but I thought I would make an updated video, kind of show you how it's still the same thing from back from 2013 when from that Chevy Cruze when I made that video to now, same thing. So here it goes. Okay, to begin we need to take off this water reservoir, and it has two clips under this black plastic here, so we need to kind of pull the plastic back and then get the two clips that are down there. So now we can actually remove the water reservoir out of the way. There's only two hoses, this big one here and the small one that goes to the side. And now we need to start taking off the intake system, or the mouth that goes into the turbo right here. You can just use a flathead screwdriver to get it loosened up, and all the way to the air box you can just pull it all right out. Sometimes it comes in two pieces like this, but that's just a rubber boot. You can take it off and you can just put it back into the rubber hose or the intake hose. Now we can start removing this metal heat shield here that covers the turbo, and it should be three, I believe, 10mm bolts that go around the turbo. So you can start taking that off. But then I noticed, like, also have these vacuum hoses that go right here. So I'm gonna start taking those off, and then this one just has the two clips that go around it. And then that small hose that goes to a sensor on the bottom, I believe that's for the wastegate. We're gonna take that off and just put those two hoses out to the side. They are hard plastic, so be careful. Don't pull on them or yank on them too much, because they are hard plastic, so they're gonna be brittle sometimes. So just be really careful with them. For that heat shield, I'm sorry, it's gonna be an E10 or an inverted Torx, and it's gonna be, I believe, two on the top and then one right in the middle of the turbo. There they are, and it's just that heat shield. We remove it out of the way, and now we use a 10mm socket to start loosening up the exhaust manifold bolts that hold the entire turbo. It's all one piece, the exhaust manifold and the turbo into the head. There's gonna be like three or two bolts that are really hard to get to right by the wastegate down here. As you can see, I'm struggling right there and trying to think how am I gonna get it out. And the best way that I figured out was to actually take the wastegate off. If we take the wastegate off, I believe it's just two 10mm nuts there, and then we have like a safety clip on the bottom. We pull that out, and that gives us enough room to get down there. And here we are pulling it off, and then you can really get to those 10mm bolts that are down there. Once everything is loosened up, now we're going to go to the bottom of the engine to kind of see what else we need to take off down there. Down here we're going to have three nuts that hold the exhaust manifold or the cat to the rest of the exhaust system, and then we have that one bracket, and here it is. Also, don't forget to loosen up the clamp that goes from the turbo to the cat. But here it is. You can see the turbo, you can see the water lines we need to remove. The oil return line right here is going to be 2 bolts. On those coolant lines, we're going to remove one from the turbo and on the other one from the other side. And then we have this bracket here that holds the cat. We're going to go ahead and remove it out of the way. I believe it's T30, and those are the coolant lines down up there. So let's remove this one first, and then that's the other side of that coolant line that we're going to leave up there. Now here I'm removing all the coolant lines that go into the oil cooler. You should have one big coolant line. I believe it's one smaller one. So I'm just removing the clamps and pulling the clamps up so I can get the actual hose out of there. While I'm taking off these clamps, let me advise you that if you have to take pictures of any of these that we're taking off right now, you should, especially if it's your first time removing one of these turbos or oil coolers, just to get to it. Then we have another E10 inverted Torx here, and this is gonna be for a bolt that holds like one of the metal cooler lines in place. Once we take that off, we're able to actually remove the turbo, and we already undid one of the cooler lines that hold the turbo on the bottom, and then on the other side we left that line, and we're taking it off from the opposite side. That way we don't get the two confused, and it's just easier this way. After taking off that cooler line, everything should be pretty loose. Like I said, have patience, double check everything that you're not missing anything. If the turbo is not coming out kind of easier than what I'm doing it here, double check everything, make sure that everything is disconnected, that you don't want to break any lines or have to replace things that you didn't have to replace before. Once we have the turbo out, I want to show you those cooler lines that I was talking about. So this one we removed from here, and this is the one that we left on, and that's the little bracket that I was telling you about. But here is a look at the turbo out, everything that I left on and everything that I took off. Well, now we have a plain view of our oil cooler, which has 4 bolts. There's one here, one right here, the one that we already took off right there. We're gonna have to loosen up this hose right here, disconnect the oil pressure switch. There's gonna be an O-ring back here that we need to replace. That's gonna be for the coolant line. And then this metal pipe for the coolant has a bolt down here that we need to remove so we can get the hose out of the way and wiggle it out. So every little gasket that you get to, make sure that we replace it. But here it is, the oil cooler out. You can see the 4 holes for the bolts. The new one should come with its own O-rings and gaskets and everything. It just goes in there. We need to clean all these surfaces here for whenever we install the new one. Every gasket, every O-ring that you see that you're going into, you need to make sure that you replace it. The gaskets for the oil lines and the cooler lines that go into the turbo also. Here is the new one. You can see the 4 bolt holes for where it's gonna go into. It has its own O-rings, gaskets. The only one that I didn't have was the one in the back, the O-ring that I was telling you about, and we need to order that from the dealer. Here is the part number, and here it is, oil cooler already installed. Make sure that we replace this O-ring here, like I said. I was only able to find in the dealer. It's actually 3 bolts, not 4, sorry. So there it goes. Let's make sure that we find from the dealer the gasket washer that goes here, the gasket that goes for the oil return line. Alright, so now from here on, we're just gonna put everything back in reverse order. I really hope this video helped you guys out. Don't forget to thumbs up, subscribe, hit that bell for me. And if you have any questions, just let me know right there in the comment section. I'll help you out as much as I can.